My name is Dries Ketels, I'm an artist, and in this video I'm going to share my perspective on sketchbooks and explain to you how a sketchbook can change your life. So let's just start right away. The first benefit that comes with having a sketchbook is that you learn how to deal with failure. Because here's the thing with drawing, nobody can draw without constantly making mistakes, and so part of the process of drawing is learning how to deal with those mistakes. Because more often than not, those mistakes are irreversible in a way that you cannot simply erase them. Sketching, therefore, forces you to learn how to accept them and transform them into something positive. And this then translates to the rest of your life. While accepting the mistakes in your drawings, you learn how to accept the mistakes in your personality, how to accept the mistakes in your life. And accepting them is the beginning of changing them, or the beginning of simply living a more peaceful life. And for me, this is an invaluable lesson, and perhaps one of the things I found most difficult in life. Learning how to deal with failure and learning how to get back up quickly after you failed and just keep on moving forward is very hard. That's a very hard thing, and sketching teaches us exactly how to do this. Another benefit sketchbooks have, or better the thing you do with sketchbooks, namely drawing has, is that it increases your memory. Studies show that drawing increases your memory more than studying in books does, and more than writing does. I think it was the University of Waterloo that asked participants to draw or write 30 nouns within a particular time frame, meaning that they had to write the nouns multiple times over as long as there was time left. And then they asked them to recall the nouns afterwards, and found that when people made a drawing of the nouns, they could recall it better than when they wrote it down multiple times. There's this saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we now know that when it comes to memory, this is actually literally true. And this makes sense because the act of drawing takes memorization. Obviously when you're drawing from memory, but also when you're drawing from observation. When you draw from observation, you first have to look at the object, and then you have to go to your paper while trying to remember what you just saw, and then start drawing while still trying to remember what you just saw. This is an act of memory, and so it's to no surprise that drawing increases your ability to memorize. I can see this increase in memory in my own life as well. Oftentimes when I'm going through sketchbooks from several years ago, or from 10 years ago, or even old drawings from when I was 5 years old, I immediately get thrown back to that moment and remember how I was feeling, what smells were present, what sound was part of that scene. And in that sense, your sketchbooks become some sort of time machine that can take you back. And as much as I love writing, I don't have that with writing. Writing doesn't create the same pathways in the brain that enable you to remember things as vividly as drawing does. And so in many ways, a sketchbook is your life through memories in true 8K resolution with smell, sound, and everything. And it's not just your memory that improves through sketching. Studies have also shown that drawing in a sketchbook, no matter how well you draw, activates the reward centers in the brain the same way sex does. Studies show that your communication skills improve because you are forced to communicate without using language. And through that, it gives us the ability to understand feelings and emotions better without focusing on the meaning of words. It obviously also helps with your hand-eye coordination and your fine motor skills. It helps us to relax and release us from stress by forcing us to focus on small details, much like meditation forces you to focus on your breath, for example. Another study published by Harvard Health Publishing shows that sketching helps us to focus on a particular message that is being said. A message of a teacher, or a speech, or a message of loved ones. It turns out that the participants in that research who were sketching while listening to the message became better listeners and actually remembered a significant amount more of the message than those who were not sketching. Another benefit, which might be my personal favorite, is that you learn to see the beauty of things. When we are making paintings or books or songs or anything that we will showcase towards the world, there is a lot of pressure that comes with that. And that is one of the reasons we stick to the things we know will work, particular themes like portrait art or love songs, for example. We stick to the things we know will work. But when you are creating in your sketchbook, you can sketch anything. You can sketch a towel or a piece of paper on the ground or a briefcase in the train, and by doing so you start to zoom in on those mundane objects and learn that there's a lot of beauty in those objects as well. You learn that a drawing of a garbage bin can be as beautiful as a drawing of a Lamborghini, and in some cases be even more beautiful. As strange as it might sound, Through drawing, we start to appreciate the beauty in a garbage bin as much as the beauty in a Lamborghini. And the moment you realize that a garbage bin can be more beautiful than a Lambo, everything changes in your head. Suddenly you gain the ability to enjoy everything in life and not just the things that are being put on a pedestal on Instagram. Everybody is always saying that you should learn to enjoy the small things in life, but nobody actually talks about how you can do that, how you can learn to enjoy the small things. Well, if nothing else, I'm here to say that sketching is one way of learning that. Sketching ordinary things in your sketchbook when you cannot draw will teach you that. It will teach you to see the beauty in everything. I think Pablo Picasso said it best when he said, "Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life." The next benefit of sketching is that we learn to let go of judgment. When we are living our lives, we are constantly judging. We see a car passing by and think about whether or not it is beautiful. We see a couple sitting on a bench and think whether or not they fit well together. We see a man wearing a jacket and compare that jacket to the jacket we are wearing and feel inferior or superior. And this judgment happens in our brains. We look at the Lambo and think it is more beautiful than the garbage bin because we think that other people like it more, and we think it's worth a lot of money, and we think that the girls might think highly of us if we would possess it. In short, we find beauty in it because we think about it, and only because we think about it. Now here's the thing that's interesting about drawing. When we go away from the thinking spectrum and step into the visual spectrum, we get rid of those judgments because the green of the Lambo is the same green as the green of the garbage bin. The light that falls on the Lambo is the same light that falls on the garbage bin, and the shadow that is caused by it is the same shadow. From a visual perspective, there is no difference between the Lambo and the garbage bin, and we learn that through observing those two objects from a visual perspective only. And so through the act of sketching, through the act of observing, we can let go of the judgment of external things, and with that, we can hopefully also let go of the judgment towards internal things. Through sketching, we can learn to stop judging ourselves. Another benefit is the meditating quality of focusing on something. In mindfulness meditation practice, you are focusing on something. Most of the time this is your breath, but this doesn't have to be your breath. This might as well be an object, your pen, a piece of paper, aka the things you would focus on while sketching. And the benefit over a sketchbook instead of meditation is that you actually have something to look back on after 10 years. Over the course of a decade, you can easily make 100 sketchbooks in 10 minutes a day without any pressure. And so after 10 years, you have a collection of 100 books that give you a sense of accomplishment and pride and fulfillment that you will not get with meditation. And the best of all, sketching in your sketchbook is extremely cheap. You don't need to block out a lot of time. 15 minutes is more than enough. You don't need to have any skills before you can start because, as I already said, the quality of the drawing doesn't matter. What matters is the act of drawing itself. You don't need any money either. Buying a very small sketchbook will only cost you $10 or something, meaning that the costs of starting are extremely low and the rewards of starting are extremely high. Today we live in a strange society. If you have a sketchbook as an adult, people will think it's strange. They will think it's a waste of time. They will think that it is distracting you from more important things and more serious things. That sketching is for children. But if we look at the greatest people in the history, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Edison, Charles Darwin, Marie Curie, they all had one thing in common. They all had a sketchbook and made drawings in that. Sketchbooks are the cheapest and most profound way of doing research. Now there's one question that remains after watching this video, and that is, why isn't everyone drawing? If this is so fantastic, Dries, then why don't we see this all over the place? Why don't we teach this in all curriculums, in all schools? Well, that's a good question. And the answer is that we actually did. Throughout the entire human history, we teach it in all schools, in all curriculums. In the time your grandfather lived, everyone drew. Somehow human beings back then knew intuitively, just like children do now, that drawing is very advantageous to the human condition. The truth is that we only stopped drawing with the invention of photography and computer screens. And this makes some sense because before the invention of photography, there was an inherent need for drawing because we simply couldn't take a picture of something and then send it to someone. We had to draw it. Today, life is different. Today we live in a society where the sketchbook has been replaced by something else. I'm not going to say what it is because it's pretty obvious. It's all around us. It's in the train station, it's in the cities, it's in our bed, it's in the restaurant, in the airport, in the parks, in the kitchen, and most importantly, in between our relationships. It's everywhere where sketchbooks used to be. And it makes sense because it's very similar. It's almost the same as paper, except that it has a like button and a buy now button. And this leaves us with the real question, which is, did we lost something extremely precious when we stopped drawing? I don't have an answer to that question, but I have this. If you're inspired by this video and you're curious to some other life choices I made to enrich my life, I highly recommend my video, Why I Choose to Live a Boring Life as an Artist. And if not, then that's okay too. I still wish you the best in life. Take care. Ciao, ciao.